Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Scott stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Scott upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and on the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal him. Who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the truth. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Scott stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott, who tell the truth? Mark Scott, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Scott, radio station is the fruit. Mark Scott, straight up from the root. Mark Scott.
This is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you, so call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right, it's 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's begin with our show right here on 107.1 FM. Good evening to all of you, and that's what we say FM. 107.1 FM. Mind you, let's get it straight. 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. Spread the word and let folks know that we're on. We are broadcasting live from beautiful Georgetown, Guyana. Wherever other part of the world that you are in, we say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever, whatever it is. Welcome to Straight Up. We're going to rock and roll this evening in just about 10 or 15 minutes or so. We will have with us Wayne Caesar, who is no stranger to you guys by now. I'm not sure if Wayne Caesar is going to be running for some political office in Brooklyn, but I suspect that he is gearing himself up just for that. So look out for those names, right? We produce politicians, mind you. We are looking at these individuals. Miss Shillon Washington, who knows, maybe she can run for some judgeship out there. But let us focus on you guys as well, right? Good evening to all of you who make it your duty to be on with us every single night. And when we are not on, you guys get buzzed. I don't want to use the word buzzedy because some of these guys might be looking at us all the way at from Freedom House and from office of the president, because they pay about 60 persons and give them $70,000 a month to do a bunch of nonsensical things that don't really make sense. And you know the sort of things that we're talking about, right? We're not bothered about those sort of things and those things. They're things and they're things. All right. While you warm up yourself, let me say good evening to all of you guys. Good evening to all of you. It's Friday, and what do we usually say, right? Thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Whatever it is that you plan on doing, whatever it is that you plan on doing, just be safe. If you're going out to take a quick drink somewhere, just be careful. Just be careful what you drink, who you drink with. For me, we will get intoxicated right here with the politics, the dirty and corrupt politics in Guyana. And as you see there, it basically says wickedness. Wickedness, PPP equals to wickedness in high places. Wickedness in high places. That is what it's about. And mind you, when you join this show, if you don't see, you just don't see and you don't ask. We just move on, right? Thank you so much. Read between the lines what I'm trying to say here. Radhika Suklal, good evening to you. Ian Williams, good evening to you. And all of you beautiful people. I can't call all of your names. All right? And if I don't call all of your names, just know you fall within the category of good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. All right. So what do you guys want? The first over a political bowling that we do here. What do you guys want us to begin with? Carl Miller is starting off on the right track. PPP equal wickedness in high places. And Carl Miller is saying PPP is like a demonic curse. It's already demonic. PPP is a curse. PPP under Jack Dale and Irfan and all these lagu-bagus, the PPP is a curse, a big-time curse. It's an eyesore to Guyana. They don't mean well. They're not patriotic people. It's all just about sell out and sell out and sell out and sell out and give away Guyana. Right now they're in China for 1 week. 1 week Irfan Ali is spending in China, just giving away everything. And I can bet my last $13 that, let us say Irfan Ali, when he leaves China, on his way back, if he can stop, I promise you guys this, if he can stop over in the US, pick a state and I'll meet with him for a cup of coffee, because coffee just quick and go. A cup of coffee if he is willing to subject himself to a lie detector test. And here's what the deal is with that lie detector test, is that while in China, that he didn't take a bribe. If he passed that lie detector test, I promise you, I'll stop calling them illegal regime and so forth and so on. If he succeeds in that polygraph test, that he didn't take a bribe for anything, whether to vote in favor of China with that one seat that they get in the Security Council for just 1 year. Because there are lots of bribery going on with that, and these small countries, they got to vote. Some of them offer, those big countries offer them hundreds of millions of dollars, mind you, to vote in favor of something. And if Irfan Ali is willing to take a lie detector test over coffee with me, I'll stop criticizing them until 2025, whenever we have general and regional elections, when they will be on their way out of office, because they got to go. Them guys taking lots and lots of bribery going on in China right now, selling out Guyana. They're selling out Guyana. All right, what else is happening that we want to touch on? When I say touch on, really, really quickly, we noticed that they have charged. They rushed to charge this guy, Patterson. What they charge Patterson for? They went right ahead. The police, that is, we see them. The police went right ahead and they charged Patterson. Placed Patterson on, that's Member of Parliament Patterson. They placed him first on $200,000 station bail. $200,000 station bail. And then after he was placed on $200,000 station bail for urinating on somewhere, as they claim, they also placed him on, they charged him swiftly, mind you, swiftly charged him. The DPP recommended charges against, what's his name, David Patterson, almost immediately. She didn't even sleep on it, if you know what I mean. All of you should know what I mean by it. She didn't even sleep on it. She went right ahead and she charged David Patterson, Member of Parliament, former minister under the coalition government, charged right away. As soon as it got to the DPP's desk, guess what Shalimar Huq did? Shalimar Huq wasted no time in recommending charges against Patterson. And guess for what? Guess for what they charged the guy? The guy apparently over at the AFC headquarters there, for those of you who know where it is. And I bet all of them were neighbors together. They were all neighbors, Sorry, I sound like Trump. They were all neighbors, And suddenly they're no longer friends. And so David Patterson apparently, taking a line, taking possibly a drink, who knows? And so he decided that he wants to urinate. So he went out wherever it is and he did whatever he did, according to the allegations, mind you, we don't know. And then he did what he did. And some man by the name of Udit saw something that he either got jealous of, couldn't get, upset for, mind you, I'm just saying, what could be a possibility. And so according to the report here, Patterson appeared before senior magistrate Leron Daly at the Georgetown Magistrates Court. There he answered to 3 charges relating to his indecent exposure in front of a man's private property. So it's private property against private property here. I repeat, private property against private property. And now don't jump to say shame on Patterson. We cannot believe everything the PPP vagabonds they say. So this guy Udit Ramsru obviously had it in for Patterson. Right, Gollygat? And so Patterson apparently decided to just, apparently urinate. He pleaded not guilty. We don't know how accurate this is. But I'm not going to, you think I'm going to sit here and believe these PPP guys? And I'm not saying that people should pee all over the place. I'm not saying that. But Udit obviously saw something that he didn't really appreciate. And his bumps raised, he got buzzedy, and so he got vexed, according to the report. Mind you, let me continue. Sorry, I get a little bit, carried away. You guys know how I usually try to editorialize stuff and get a bit carried away. So here it is. They're saying it was alleged that on July 16, 2023, Patterson exposed his genitals to Ramsrup Udit. Expose it. Expose it. And apparently, apparently, I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know what's going on, but he was charged. He was charged. Police arrested him. And now, if you guys look, David Patterson is not, someone really high up in my good books. Neither is he in my black books. But fairness is fairness. You have so many crimes out there that the PPP folks commit. And all of these crimes, this lady who sits there as the DPP ignores, whether it's rape, whatever it is, child molestation, you name it. She doesn't go after these big PPP swines. Look how long she took before she sent the file back concerning Dharamlal. She said they need more information, all manner of things they would do so that not to charge the PPP culprits. That a man now, David Patterson, decided he wanted to pee. Nothing. Look, I know that entire area. There's a mechanic shop there. There's another guy that does tint and some other graphic work. A graphic designer is right there. And then there's some bushes there. And then obliquely opposite, there's a burial ground. And so, the guy went and he did what he did, and Udit didn't like it. And so the police sent the file to the DPP, and right away the DPP said, nonsense, charge him right away. I'm just showing you how these vagabonds in the PPP operate. So David Patterson appeared in court today. And the magistrate asked how he pleaded, whether he pleaded not guilty or not. 3 charges or so. And he pled not guilty. And then the magistrate asked, before he pleaded not guilty, the magistrate said, what's going on? And David Patterson decided to say exactly what was on his mind in court.
I want you to play with my ding-a-ling. My ding-a-ling. My ding-a-ling. I want you to play with my ding-a-ling.
Oh, Father. What a Friday night, and what a way to start the program, right? Udit got vexed. There was an exchange, and obviously the exchange was what it was, and there was words exchanged between a man and another guy, Udit, a man and Udit, and the exchange was basically word for word, cuss-out for cuss-out. Who knows? Maybe this is exactly what transpired, and Udit didn't like it.
My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. I want you to play with my ding-a-ling. My ding-a-ling, my ding-a-ling. I want you to play.
All right, enough of that now. Hey, guess what? Guyana is something else, and they charged the guy. He's in front of court now, and the point that I'm making to you guys is that everything is so blatant. How the police operate, how the DPP operate, nothing is fair in Guyana. Absolutely nothing under the PPP regime. Nothing is fair. Nothing at all. Mr. Caesar, good night. What is it? Oh, sorry. I thought you were pulling a David Patterson there on us. Well, good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Good, Mark. Good evening to you. Good evening to all our listeners and viewers.
I'm
I'm doing
sure
well.
that you're not. I'm sure that you're not surprised that the DPP has swiftly sent back the file to the police recommending charges against David Patterson. Swiftly. You're not surprised by that, aren't you? Or are you?
Well, I
If you can speak up just a little bit, or is it my volume at this
okay.
end? Well, go ahead, sir.
Let me just double check to make sure that I am on.
It might be your volume from your voice. Friday Night Energy. I know you knocked an energy drink earlier. Let's go.
Yes. All right. You could hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir. Go right
All
ahead.
right. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so we're on. All right. Well, I am not surprised, Mark. David Patterson, is one that the PPP would definitely want to go after. And listen, they're not hesitant. That's the thing. That's the difference, between the PPP and the coalition, man. They are going to prosecute and prosecute to the highest of levels. It doesn't matter what, it could be the smallest misdemeanor, Mark. They're going to use it as an opportunity. So what they want to do here, they want to create this big whole, this big whole game now with David Patterson now that they're going to, walk him through and through the courts and try their best, their utmost best to, embarrass the member of parliament, and they're going to use that to try to deviate the people, from what they are actually doing. But listen, we are going to stay focused on this. It's terrible to know that, the DPP would have moved so swiftly with David Patterson, but yet she would have thrown out the Dion Bascom case, and she would have thrown out so many other cases, Mark. Like I would have said before, this DPP has too much sweeping powers, man. And listen, man, she is racist. Okay? She is racist. I'm saying that plain on this station here, Mark. The DPP is a racist individual. The PPP is a racist government. Okay? And they don't need to ever see the light of government again in Guyana. Listen, PPPC, your time is up. Okay, your time is up. Come 2025, the people of Guyana wants no more of you. All you continue to do is to hurt the people and hurt our nation. PPPC, enough is enough. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. 24 minutes after 9 o'clock. Can't disagree with anything Mr. Caesar said there. PPP time is up, and we've just got to do what is necessary. Guyana people, I noticed on social media, there are folks who are saying Guyana is not a real place. Let me just remind those folks, and I know exactly what they're saying, but Guyana is a real place. Look at the corrupt bandits. Look at those bandits who are in office right now. People, just imagine people walking around Georgetown, driving around Georgetown or whatever, and it appears as though you're in Manhattan. You see all sorts of things. You see city bikes. What's going on? I mean, I know that's the trending thing on social media right now. A city bike. Somebody went out of their way, obviously stole a city bike, packed it and shipped it to Guyana, assembled it, and they got the nerve to be riding a city bike right now in Georgetown, Guyana. A city bike, which is a stolen bike. You can't tell me that they got that from a, but then again, look who's on the bike. A city bike. What is your take on this thing that is trending? Well, I noticed somebody put Rohi on that bike because many years ago at Metropole, he used to take tickets and people go into Metropole Cinema. And there was an allegation that Rohi, who is now one of the commissioners, PPP commissioners at GCOM, there was an allegation that he is a bike thief. Allegation, mind you. So it's quite fitting that someone put him on that city bike in Georgetown. But what is your take on the fact that this bike ended up in Guyana?
Well, Mark, before I even start on my take here, I would have seen several individuals on this bicycle. Okay. And from what the people are trying to say with those individuals that was placed on that bicycle, that they're all thieves, flatfoot hustlers. So it doesn't surprise me that Roe is on the bike also. But yeah, Mark, listen, when the lawlessness starts at the top, it trickles right down. And it's definite that somebody would have take that bike, disassemble it, pack it, and sent it to Guyana. I feel like if that person is found, they should be persecuted because it's lawless, it's indecent. Come on, we've got to be better than we've got to be
I
better
mean,
than this, Mark.
I
We've
don't know
got to be
what
better.
is
We've got to do
happening.
better.
I don't know what's happening with Guyana. It's an oil-rich country, but can you tell us what's really happening in Guyana? Oh, every day there's something. Every single day there's something. But we have
Well,
other.
well,
Go ahead, sir.
well, Mark, you're gonna always have something every day. Listen, the people are, they're not being empowered. They're, from 1992 when the PPP would have taken power, Mark. You got to remember, university started to be paid from them. You had to pay for university, and this was purposely done because they know that the poor would not be able to attend university. This way, you're able to oppress the people because you don't have many educated people, Mark. I was speaking to a teacher. I think it was yesterday. Yes, I was speaking to a teacher yesterday in the Barbies Kanji area. And, that teacher was indicating to me how low the literacy level is in that area. And, it was disturbing, to know that we are in this time, the 21st century, and we still have Guyanese struggling with literacy. This government, Mark, has just suppressed the people. They have broken dreams. They have continued to break dreams, Mark. And, I don't know, the people have to respond. This 2025 election, Mark, and I said I would have said it in 2020 that it was the most critical elections in the history of Guyana. This one, I feel, is even more critical because if you don't get it right this time, this is to the people of Guyana. If you don't get it right this time, you are stuck. I cannot help you. I cannot help you. We need to get it right.
Absolutely. They've got to get it right this time. If they don't get it right, I wouldn't say Catty the dinner because I'm a very optimistic person. And whoever did this to this bike, city bike in Guyana, I don't know what's going on, but oil-rich country, this is what it's all about. Whoever sent it there, if I had my way through the Guyana police force, were I a police officer, that bike would have been pulled in and an investigation sought to find out who stole that bike and sent it to Guyana. It couldn't be no GPS, but we get a couple of suspects, though. We do have a couple of suspects, Mr. Caesar. We do have a couple of suspects.
I told you there were a few people on that bicycle.
Yeah, we do have a couple of suspects. But it's Friday evening as we move on to other information coming out of Guyana. Let us jump on our own bike and get out of here as we talk about the end of Sarah Lynch as ambassador to Guyana. Late last evening, Nicole was confirmed. She was confirmed as the new ambassador to Guyana, the new U.S. ambassador to Guyana. Obviously, the signs were there that they were about to change the ambassador. And so Nicole now, who was the consular head out there in Karachi, she will now be heading to Guyana maybe as early as next week to take up her seat there as the new ambassador, the new U.S. ambassador. This is, like Sarah Ann Lynch, this is her first posting as ambassador, her first country, her first head of mission, where she will be there in Guyana. Her first. She's good with immigration and all of those backlogs. They have backlogs of families who have been waiting for their petitions to be most of them are approved, but to have an interview date. Some people have been waiting for as long as 20 years. Some started when they were a teenager, the petition started, and now they are grown men and women. How would this new ambassador, since that is her profession, that is where she has most of her experience, how will she handle the backlog of all those petitions that are sitting there 15 and 20 years old? Outside of that, what is your take now that Guyana has a new ambassador? Out goes Sarah Ann Lynch.
Well, Mark, let me just start off by saying, Miss Lynch would have left a sour taste in the mouths of, ordinary Guyanese, in her bias, stance with this install regime that continues to marginalize and oppress everyday Guyanese. But, there's a time for everything, right? Her time is now up, just like the PPP time will be up come 2025. And we welcome Nicole as our new ambassador to Guyana. And I hope that she comes in with an open mind and good intelligence, and she gets off to a good running start, and be sure that she holds no biases, that she engage both the installed government and the opposition equally, because both sides represent a certain faction of the Guyanese people. So I hope, and then Mark, as you would have been talking, that she comes in with a lot of immigration experience. I am hoping that those backlogs would be moved along, because there's a lot of petitions. Yes, I've heard that also, that there's a lot of petitions holding there at the U.S. Embassy. So I hope that those can be moved along expeditiously. And when you speak of 20 years, Mark, that people have been waiting, you just open a new can of worms there, because it's the same thing with housing across Guyana. Many would have applied for land and they've been waiting for 20 years, 17 years, 16 years, 15 years. And you have these rich people coming from outside of our country, these foreigners able to come and throw their money around and get acres of land across Guyana. It just shows that Guyanese, born and bred Guyanese, who should be treated with respect and dignity, is not even just treated as second-class citizens, but probably fourth or fifth-class citizens in their own oil-producing country.
All right, well said, Mr. Caesar. Welcome back, Jaiwan Bonduri, whatever. Probably they had him in Camp Street and he just got let out either from Camp Street or Lusignan. We haven't seen you in a while, Bonduri, but we are glad that you're back, G1 or Jaiwan. Dennis Atwell is saying that, oh no, Mark, Sarah Ann Lynch was ambassador to Haiti. Oh, really? What year, where, and when? The first ambassadorship of Miss Sarah Ann Lynch was in Guyana, sir. Please double check on your little information there. This is her first post as ambassador. She heads back to Washington, D.C., and from Washington, D.C., she will be entering retirement, unless she has a pre-retirement and will be off with her husband, who's a dentist. All right, Hazel Austin, all the way in Georgetown. Good evening to you. Haven't seen Hazel. All of those people were part of the struggle. Real people in real struggle. Those were the good days, Hazel Austin. I noticed somebody saying something about extradition and look, as far as I'm aware, I have broken no law or no laws in Guyana or anywhere. And I do speak with police officers every day, every single day in Guyana and other folks. There's no indication that I am wanted for anything in Guyana. I don't know who's panicking. I am not panicking. And people have been inboxing me to say, oh, really? They want to extradite you back to Guyana? No, they don't. They don't. And whenever I'm ready to go to Guyana, I can go at any time I feel that I'm ready to go. I am fearful of no one. I have broken no law. There's no such thing that no police, whether it's the crime chief, whether it doesn't. And I don't like when people just, put you guys in this panic stage, even though we know the corrupt PPP, what we're dealing with and so forth. And I had to respond to quite a few people via my inbox to say, that is not so. No PPP corrupt regime is attempting to extradite me for what? For nothing at all. I can jump on the plane and head back anytime I want to, and I would probably dare them. But at the end of the day, there's no truth to that. But go right ahead, Mr. Caesar. What else we can talk about this evening?
Well,
What else is bothering you, sir?
well, Mark, I would want to add a little bit to what you would have just said there. I mean, you can't be wanted anywhere, because the first question I would ask is on what grounds? Okay? Listen, when you take a position as a government, your job is to execute, for your people. If you're not doing so, people do have a right to speak out. Nobody's never spoken out and said, oh, attack the PPP, or oh, do this to the PPP, or oh, do that to the PPP. We've just called out the PPP for their inconsistencies, for their marginalization of Guyanese, for their ill treatment of Guyanese, especially those of Afro descent. What do you think? You're going to bulldoze people and do all the things that the PPP would have done to people, and everybody must just be mum? No. And when people speak out, you can't say that, oh, they are wanted. I want to see a wanted bulletin for me. That's what I want to see.
And
You guys, come on.
This whole
No,
wanted thing,
Mark.
and who's
Mark, these
wanted.
guys, no. We need to put this in perspective once and for all. You can't be issuing bulletins to people for speaking. Are you kidding me? To take away a man's ability to speak, Mark, is to kill him. It's to kill a live person when you take away their ability to speak. We have to be able to speak out. If we see wrongs, we have to speak to those. We're not going to stay mum. I'm never going to stay mum when I see that there is something that is wrong. And what this government is doing to the people, Mark, is absolutely wrong. Okay? We have an oil producing nation here, and the Guyanese people have not gained anything thus far from what the oil was able to, revenue from the oil in Guyana. So if we're speaking out about that, Mark, we have a right to listen. When you take these positions, if you know that you're not open to constructive criticism and criticism in general, then listen, you can't play in the kitchen. You can't take the heat. You can't play in the kitchen. We've been speaking out to this government, Mark, for some time, and they have not moved to correct anything. That's the other problem. You can't move to try to persecute people and put up wanted bulletins for people when people would have spoken out and you have done absolutely nothing for the people of Guyana. Come on, Mark. No. And I would walk and I will travel and go down to Guyana anytime I do feel like. There is no right seater that's going to come and put their hands on me at the airport and say, oh, this or oh, that. No. That just ain't working out. Nobody touches me. Nobody touches me. Over to you, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much. 40 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let me just say to my friend Dennis, personal questions in public domain, I do not answer. Thank you. I appreciate it. But who else is it that we can say good evening to? All of you, every single one of you. The PPP is basically, that is what they're about, the fear factor. They love to drive fear into people and to threaten them with arrest and all manner of things. But I've been through that, done that. And so they should know by now that those threats mean nothing to me. And but I should say that I haven't seen or heard any threat or any charges or any nothing coming from anyone, no police force, no nothing. So I'm not bothered by them. I know how wicked they are. I know how vindictive they are. and nothing would stop me from heading back to Guyana. Absolutely nothing. So I just want to make that lucidly clear. Outside of that, we have other things that we can talk about, and that is the fact that Guyana now has a new ambassador. She's headed to Guyana maybe sometime next week to take up her position there. We just want to say congratulations to the new ambassador, and we wish her all the best. We ask her only one thing, just to be fair minded. Don't appear as though you're taking one side. Don't ignore the cries and the concerns of the other side. Just don't cozy up with the enemy, the PPP, that is. Do not cozy up with them. Play the game fair. Do your job with fairness across the board. Speak out against human rights violations, speak out when people are being persecuted, and so forth. That is what America is about. It's not just about going there and cozying up with the PPP vagabonds. Of course, the new ambassador has a job to do to protect Americans' interests, but also to ensure that democracy exists in Guyana and that people are not being persecuted as a result of their ethnicity or maybe political affiliation and so forth and so on. And so on that, I want to say that welcome, and congratulations to this new U.S. ambassador to Guyana. And to Miss Sarah Ann Lynch, it was a bumpy journey there for you in Guyana. I know a lot of mainly supporters of the coalition are not too happy with what basically happened, and so forth. And lots of folks are not. Sorry about that. Lots of folks aren't too pleased with that. But what I do know is that at the end, the tables turned, so to speak, that the PPP became very uncomfortable with Sarah. So much so that after the Reuters article, Jack Dew and all these guys began now to panic because they were seeing another side of that they quickly became concerned and said, well, hey, wait a minute. Has this ambassador been accumulating information on them or whatever? I say that to say that they became very uncomfortable with Sarah, but it probably, in some instances, it was probably maybe too late. She possibly would have done her job to the best of her ability in exposing the PPP. That's just my opinion, mind you. So the PPP became very uncomfortable. The Exxon decided to campaign. They probably called Marco Rubio and those other guys in the Senate, the U.S. Senate, that were actually holding up these appointments and confirmation, and so they quickly rush to confirm a few ambassadors, including the new ambassador to Guyana, Nicole. This was done very late last evening. So read between the lines, guys. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Whatever else you do in your retirement, have fun. So what else is it that we can touch on? Anything else that we can touch on? Because we see here Senate confirms slate State Department nominees as Tuberville military hold. Tuberville is a senator that is holding things up with military appointments, but we saw that the Senate confirmed a slate of high-profile State Department nominees, including ambassadors to Italy, Jordan, Georgia, so forth and so on, United Arab Emirates, and some other countries there, including Guyana. What else is happening in Guyana, though? Mr. Caesar, I know you go through the newspapers. What else is going on there, sir?
Well, I was doing a quick browse, and I an article from news source, Gordon Mosley, kind of caught my eyes, where Jack Dio, basically admit that, the PPPC would have received donations from the Mohammeds. And he said it was nothing different than what, the Mohammeds does for other parties. I'm gonna say this: if the Mohammeds do donate to the PPPC and the APNU, the amounts that are donated is not equal across the board. I'm gonna just say this, without seeing anything. But one thing I must say, Mark, is that he's been put in check enough now that when questions are asked, there is some truth to the answer, and the answer is forthcoming. He's not throwing the nonsense that he continually throws at Guyanese people, because he's in check, and he's going to stay in check. Because as far as I'm concerned, Barry Jagdeo is irrelevant. And Guyanese need to start understanding that. You guys was just being led and ruled by a commandant. Okay? Because our country should be in a much better position than it is right now, economically. Look, Mark, I'm going to use the US as an example. It's been said that we're going to be hitting a recession. They're expecting a recession. And Mark, there's a lot of things that points, to a recession. But why are we not in a recession, Mark? Because jobs continue to soar and salaries continue to soar. So that's preventing any recession. And now the stock market is repairing itself. So that's the kind of things that need to happen in Guyana, Mark. That's why I'm so quick to say that while they call Guyana the fastest growing economy, I certainly feel that when you look at that from an underlying perspective, Guyana is in a recession. Cost of living is through the roof. There's no jobs to the people. Okay? Those two things alone, just using those two criteria, Mark, and there are many other criteria, and the fact that the revenue that is coming from the oil money is not hitting Guyanese, that alone puts Guyana in a recession, although it's showing that it's the fastest growing economy. So people need to be very, very careful what they go out there saying. Okay, while we might be the fastest growing economy, our people are not growing because the government of today, people, this same PPPC government is not investing in you. This government does not care about you, and they call themselves a caring government. Over to you, Mark.
Well, definitely they're not a caring government, but as it pertains to these culprits, the Mohammeds, them, and who they donate to political parties and so forth, people attempt to justify, say, oh, they donate to everybody, parties, and these sort of things. Let me just say this, that during the 2020 elections, the coalition, the officials of the coalition were instructed by David Granger or the leadership of the coalition, not to accept monetary donations from the Mohammeds and a few others. Not to accept any sort of donations from them. Now, there were some little hustlers within the coalition who ran in with a little brown paper bag, collect the thing and they gone away, collect the thing and they gone away, and whatever. But the biggest donor to the PPP during the course of the 2020 elections was actually, it could possibly be these culprits, the Mohammeds, them. So Jagdeo is trying to make it look as though, oh, they might have, but look at who gave cars to Irfan Ali on the day that he was illegally sworn in, and so forth and so on. Look at what happened there, right? Look at what happened. So there's no justification, oh, other stack and this, but there are lots of people whose hands are in the cookie jar, so to speak. Lots of them. And so some people are only attempting to justify now who tech and who in tech and who in tech. Well, at least I could tell you all this. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them ain't giving me no crumbs, and I ain't accepting no crumbs, and it didn't matter what it is, not me. Absolutely not me. But you are correct, though, that the bulk of the money that the Mohammeds possibly donated went straight to the PPP to finance the PPP in every area in the 2020 rigged general and regional elections. And so, this whole news by Jack Dale and who, Jack Dale is the last person to be speaking about these things. But you are correct. Guyana seems to be in a recession. No jobs, no nothing. The billions of dollars. We see Hess, the oil company, boasting and bragging that Guyana will get better and better, better and better for Hess and these oil companies, but not for the ordinary people.
Mark, that's propaganda. That's all propaganda there. They're pushing it. This is why, sometimes when you see some of these big media companies come out and you see these, articles posted from some of these oil companies and these big investors, you can read into it and believe everything that you see there. Hess and these companies, yes, they're in Guyana and they're gaining a lot. Their profit margin is so lopsided, in favor, of them, right? So when they come out and they try to say that, hey, Guyana is going to get better, any interest that Hess and these oil companies have shown in Guyana, they have not shown it towards the people of Guyana. Everybody wants Guyana, but they don't want the people that comes along with Guyana. And we could look at that in different ways, I will not elaborate further, but I know that our viewers are very, very smart. We can look at that in different ways because there are certain things that only happen to certain people. But listen, we would have liberated Guyana. Our foreparents would have shed their blood and give up their lives to Guyana. And we're not giving up Guyana to anybody. They're having fun right now. But like the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything, and come 2025, we're going to have our people edified. They're going to be ready to go, and we're going to recapture our country. So PPP, you could come and you could offer them 100 and 200,000 and all that you want to offer them to vote PPPC. But people, I'm telling you, don't be dense. Be very smart. You're worth way more than that. Okay? Vote for change. Allow change to work. Not this system that we have in place that we would have heard a few times, allow the system to work. We don't have any system that works in Guyana. We have a framework. But you see, the thing is when you have a framework, Mark, the framework needs a dancing partner in order for it to work. Okay, the PPPC is definitely not that dancing partner. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much. 55 minutes after 9 o'clock. For those of you who are now joining us, my name is Mark Benchop, and with me is Wayne Caesar. And let me ask. I notice Dennis Atwell. Good evening to you. Dennis says, stop saying 2025. What else can we say? Elections are constitutionally due in 2025, so we can only say 2025. We can't say 2026, even though the PPP will attempt to stretch it into 2025, late 2025, create a situation at GCOM for it to go all the way over to 2026. So we got to be realistic. We just got to be realistic. We want elections. We want the regime to collapse like immediately. We want that to happen. If it happens tomorrow, all Guyanese will be freed. All Guyanese. We're not hearing much from the MPs these days. What's going on, Mr. Caesar? Are they back in their nests? What's happening?
Well, listen, Mark, I'm going to say this. I'm a bit disappointed, okay? Because, listen, we're already past halfway of 2023, right? We have 2024, and then we have 2025 around August. That's when elections are going to be. Jagdeo is going to act for that time. You know, we had that little lapse in between, you know, when they were trying to determine who would have won the 2020 general and regional elections, which was totally rigged by the PPPC, community and CARICOM and all these people, the ABC countries, all of you guys. All of you guys put the Guyanese people in what they are in today. Maya Motley, all of you guys. Utter nonsense what you guys would have done to the people. CCJ, all of you guys are complicit. Mark, I'm calling out people. I'm not hesitating to call these people out. They're all complicit in what would have happened to the people of Guyana.
Including some of them in the opposition, in the then coalition as well, who didn't go out and do much. There are lots of stories. Maybe one day in a nice book, everything will be revealed, but I don't want to steal your thunder as you speak this evening. Go right ahead, sir.
No, yeah, Mark, as I was saying, and listen, yes, there are some people in the opposition who's culpable, because I remember when they were going back into the elections, there was a big fight for Moses Nagamutu to be replaced as the prime ministerial candidate, which Kemraj Ramjatan ended up being that candidate, right? Am I correct on that, Mark? Am I correct?
Yep, Moses. I almost sorry about that, Mr. Caesar.
Yeah,
I almost forgot that we had a prime minister by the name of Moses Versami. In fact, his name is actually Versami, not Moses, because on his birth certificate it's Versami and not Moses, but he prefers to be called Moses. Thanks for reminding me. I almost forgot that we had a prime minister by the name of Moses Nagamutu. But whatever he's up to these days. But back to your question, you are correct. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I think he's writing books and doing a few things there. But I think it was
Let me quickly.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark. Yeah, I think he was writing books.
Let me quickly address some of these coalition people. One of them is Yanat Elias. Always focus on these particular areas. So Yanat is saying one thing with Mark, he never calls his friend Granger name. I have said this on numerous occasions, that things should have gone better in the elections. Mistakes were made. Mr. Granger has to accept responsibility for some of those mistakes that were made. He was surrounded by some folks who were basically flat-foot hustlers. He's not much of a street person, so he was taken advantage of to some extent. And so, sorry about that, guys. And so there are many times when I called out David Arthur Granger when he was president, when he was opposition leader. But over the coalition period, we have seen a lot of snakes within the coalition. Some are still lingering around. And for anybody to say that I don't call out or I have never called out David Granger, it is because they were never paying attention to my show. I remember the days when I was, and a few others, Lincoln Lewis and others, who were calling out the coalition to do the right thing. But there were many people who are now cussing him, David Granger, were cussing us. They were cursing me, inboxing me, telling me that I'm bitter, that you're jealous, you're in your position, you're in all manner of things. They were cussing out left, right, and center. And majority of the people who were cussing me out now are cussing out David Granger and talking about the very things that we were trying to highlight them about and say, hey, guys, you guys are not doing what needs to be done. We were cursed out. When I ran for mayor of Georgetown, they ran against me. They cursed me out, all manner of things. I'm trying to be nice, guys, right? And so those who were cursing me then for David Granger expect me to hold their hands now and cuss David Granger for them. It's not going to happen. I repeat, it is not going to happen. David Granger made mistakes. Yes. Story done. So don't try to say that I defend Granger and I never call out Granger. Nah, wrong person. Sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder tonight, Mr. Caesar, but we are talking about the members of parliament seem to gone back in their cuckoo nest. Most of them, that is. Most of them. Go ahead.
Mark, well, there is no time for anybody to be in any cuckoo nest at this point. We have a voters list that needs to be sanitized and updated. Probably we need to go to biometrics. But listen, the window for biometrics is fastly closing. Okay, we're talking about approximately 2 years before elections. So if we're going to go the biometrics route, we got to get started just about immediately. I'm not seeing any move to sanitize the list. You don't hear anything from our GCOM commissioners, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Trockman, and there's another one, can't remember his name. Or those guys, they don't come out too much and do any type of speaking. For the most part, it's Mr. Alexander who does all the speaking. But we need to have some protest. We need to fight for a clean list. Listen, we are putting ourselves in jeopardy, and it could be deja vu all over again. Because like I would have said before, from a mathematical perspective, we're dealing here with a larger sample. Hence, there is more opportunity that the PPP, and listen, they are in government right now. They're the ones that are in government right now. So when you all might be sleeping at night, there are people working at GCOM there, doing whatever they have to do to those systems, manipulating them, whatever. Okay, so then come elections, the PPP gonna just come out and just push out numbers and names and just say, hey, look, we won the election again. We cannot afford to have this. Okay, Mark, MPs are in place to represent the people. And that's representing the people, making sure when they go out there and demonstrate their democratic right by voting, it actually counts, the list is actually clean, and we have credible elections across Guyana. That is the responsibilities of the MPs also. So they should be taking turns. They could do it in twos with a team of people. But Mark, when you are so inconsistent, you cannot build any momentum with the people because you're inconsistent. You come and you speak out a little bit and then you disappear. And listen, I'm not trying to hit our MPs. I like all our MPs for the most part. There are some of them that are doing absolutely nothing. And I don't want to hear, oh, I am working behind the scenes and oh, we're strategizing. You want to strategize? Get on the ground with the people. Let's strategize. Come on Mark Benchart program. Tell us what you've done over the last month with the people. These things are not happening, Mark. So therefore, the people are not fully educated as to what's going on in their country. Because I would have spoke to someone today who told me, man, listen, not even a fraction of these people have an idea of what's actually occurring across Guyana. Mark, you got people coming in from all walks of life into our country, renting places and doing all these type of things. The PPP is basically trying to replace the Guyanese population, with their own people. And this is what happens when a people don't bow to a government. You cannot elect a government to then bow to the government. No, you don't work for the government. The government should be working for you. And that's the point that we need to get across to the people. And that's the point the people need to get across to this government and start holding them accountable. Don't got people like Prayer Manichan and them coming on and coming in our chats and talking a bundle of garbage. You guys have work to do. School is going to open just now, Mark. What have she done as far as updating the building safety codes across our schools in Guyana? Absolutely nothing. And that's the slackness, Mark. That's the worthlessness. And yet we go in Parliament and we clear $94.4 billion allocated to education. Mark, where is Guyana going? And people have a right to ask, if Guyana is a real country, because there's no accountability. The only thing that there is in Guyana is lawlessness. Over to you, Mark.
All right, thank you, thank you so much, Mr. Wayne Caesar. One of these days, if a book were to be written about the coalition, you guys will see exactly what happened even during their reign in power. Uh, Lots of disappointments indeed, but it doesn't mean that they lost the elections. If they had done what they were supposed to have been doing while they were in office, if most of them were heading out there and doing the work of the people and for the people, some of them were locked away in their offices as minister, conducting church services, hollering, look, I have no problem with church service, right? But I don't want members of the government, especially in a coalition, a couple of them doing church service inside and lulu. I didn't vote or campaign for people to holler lulu in the offices and these are go out into the streets and reach out to the people. But this is not to say that the coalition didn't do way better than the corrupt PPP, what they did in 23 years to destroy Guyana. We start to see signs of goodness and a real Guyana. Look at what Georgetown turned into under the coalition. Look at how mothers were able, fathers and children were able to sleep for the most part comfortably, knowing that their fathers or their brothers can go out and return safely, as compared to what the PPP, when they were in office, they were slaughtering these young men left, right, and center. And so a breath of fresh air was returned to Guyana under the coalition. GPL, in many areas, they hardly had blackouts. And then the water system started to improve. There were lots of areas that were never given water under the PPP regime. So many good things. And that is the disappointment that the coalition didn't get that opportunity to go back in there for another 5 years. Guyana would have been such a beautiful place under the coalition, despite some of their imperfections by some of those incompetent ministers under the coalition. We saw a breath of fresh air. Nobody would have been threatened that if they were to return to Guyana, this is going to happen to them. This is going to happen like we see some of the Pacus who, you turn up in front of them, they wouldn't even utter those words. They may, but we all felt comfortable. You know where your tax dollars were going. For the most part, we began to see the signs. There were passports office in areas that never had it. Our young people started to get the opportunity to breathe again, to go to the technical institutes, to go out there and learn a trade. All of these things, we saw the signs of a better Guyana. But where these guys started to fight amongst themselves, they were infighting, mind you, that caused they turned a blind eye and allowed the PPP to rig the elections. And then at the end of the day, they jumped to David Granger and said that he should have stopped, he should have done this. David Granger would not have done that. Right? He's an army man. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe I would have done something to. I don't know. Maybe Burnham. I don't know. Maybe if you guys were in there, I don't know what you guys would have done either. But I do know that if Granger were to write a book, some of you, especially some of them who are still in the opposition in certain positions, probably would not like that book at all, right? And I'm just throwing a little hint there to you guys. A lot of them really screwed up too, but the buck stops right there at the leadership doorstep, right? Steps. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. I want to talk so much, but this is not the right forum for that. I really do want to talk, but this is not the right forum for that at all. But we saw at least so many years, beautiful years under the coalition. I understand how you guys feel and how frustrated you are. But some of your ministers let you down. Some of your officials let you down. Some of you are disappointed with David Granger not stopping the elections, not stopping this from swearing in, bordering on illegality there, mind you. and sanctions would have been enough of you talking about, oh, let me sanction, let me eat bread and butter, bread and rice. A lot of things could have possibly happened because ExxonMobil was bent on a regime change in Guyana by any means necessary. But I don't want to say much more. Give my mouth liberty. But a lot of things, a lot of dangerous things, a lot of corrupt things happen. And some of them who were part of the coalition regime were part of that too. They sided with the corrupt PPP regime. Don't be fooled, guys. Do not be fooled. Things happen for a reason, and let us pick ourselves back up and hope for a regime change the next time around, because we want a better Guyana. Sorry, Mr. Caesar, that I took so long with trying to make something out of something without not saying much. But go ahead.
No, Mark, I really appreciated that, especially coming down towards the end there, when you would have said that ExxonMobil was bent on a regime change. Yes, because the deals were made while the PPP was in power. So in order to execute the deals that were made and the under the table deals, because let me tell you what, you know what one of the under the table deals were? That ExxonMobil pays no insurance, okay, to protect Guyana against an oil spill. That was one of the under the table deals. Okay, that insurance money, they will go right in the pocket of, you know who, Mark. I wouldn't even say the name or names. You know, that core cluster within the PPP, that core that cannot be broken. They'll fight amongst each other, but they wouldn't break. But we will break them. And yes, Mark, I agree with you. ExxonMobil and all the big financiers around, they were bent on a regime change because listen.
Before, just take a pin, let me acknowledge Ross Ricardo as I acknowledge all of you. And Ross Ricardo is correct. He's saying, come on, Brother Mark, let's switch gears and encourage each other to make the change. Of course. I agree with you, Ross Ricardo. And again, sorry, Mr. Caesar, for injecting. You were making a very valid point, but sometimes I'm so guilty of stopping you.
Yeah, that's okay, Mark.
If I continue like that, maybe tonight you'll submit your resignation. Say, hey, little boy.
No. I'm not gonna do that, Mark. I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna always relish the opportunity to come out and speak to my brothers and sisters. And the comment that Ricardo would have just made there, I totally agree with him. And listen, what we do here is just to educate the Guyanese people as to why they should not, Mark, vote for this government.
Wayne, the disappointment, yes, especially for those of us who put our lives on the line. There were just a few, and some people can say, oh, Mark, some of them in the audience might be saying, oh, Mark, Lord, it was a dangerous period in Guyana. Dangerous period with the black clothes, with phantom squad. Guyana is not dangerous now as it was back then. And it's the coalition that saved Guyana from becoming a huge cemetery. People didn't have rights in Guyana. People were being murdered left, right, and center for nothing. Look at some of the Pacus that got gun licenses and all these different things. Corrupt police force. There were drug lords running rampant all over Guyana in bed with the PPP. Those of you who were there at that time, the Hazel Austins and all of them who were there on the ground in that struggle, it was a brutal. This thing here, this social media war is different from on the ground battle, On the ground battle. And I say that just to remind some of you guys that Guyana was a dangerous period back then. Dangerous. We can't allow it to get back to that point. And so when the coalition, some of them weren't listening, they were told that Charandas was going to vote. They were told they didn't listen. So they have nobody else but themselves to blame, the AFC and all these different, and I don't know Dennis Atwell, all of them, some of them in the PNC and the whatever else, all of them were to be blamed. They weren't listening to people. Most of them weren't listening to people. They didn't get time. You think you could pick up the phone and call any one of them? I recall a minister told me point blank they're not going to give a waiver of $60,000 for a scholar. Hiles, a scholar to Harvard. They're not going to waive a 60,000 up and down for 60,000. They're not going to waive that airfare taxes for that young lady. Kelly Hiles, I believe. Hiles, she's about to become a doctor. She went to Harvard. She graduated. She's now at University of Southern California or somewhere out there. You know, and it wasn't easy, guys. Some of our people really screwed up, you know, and they messed up big time with that Charandas thing. They messed up big time with that Charandas. And some of them who did all of these, some of these things, oh yeah, David Granger this and David Granger that. I don't know, sorry, but I took away a couple of your minutes there.
No, Mark, you made a valid point there. You know, listen, I'm gonna say this. When you have a leader, Mark, and a leader of a parliament, okay, parliamentarians have to understand, even in parliament, there's etiquette. Okay, you have the leader, Mark. You don't have to like the leader. You don't have to respect everything he or she says. But you have to respect the position, man. He wasn't just placed there. He was elected. Okay, David Granger wasn't just placed there as the leader. He was elected leader. And listen, a leader could only be marked as good, or a building could only stand as firm as its foundation. Okay, and where David Granger would have been failed was at that foundation. I am not saying that all our parliamentarians were bad or they weren't good. But what they needed to do was to stop all this infighting and all this disgruntledness and support the leader. The leader needs 100% support, meaning all on sundry on board. Had David Granger had that mark, I'm telling you what would have happened here. He would have came out, he would have spoken to his people, meaning the Guyanese people, and he would have told them, you know, what he would have been told and what the ramifications could possibly be. Okay? Mark, look at the situation of the people in Guyana right now and tell me what's the difference between what they're going through right now and sanctions. You tell me. What's the difference between what the normal Guyanese is going through right now and sanctions? And it is the normal Guyanese that would have voted the coalition into power. Okay? It was the normal Guyanese. And listen, the sanctions would not have lasted forever because we would have been able to comb through all those boxes and find the PPPC culpable of stealing, rigging. They are king riggers. So listen, I'm going to say this. My perception of Mr. Granger, Mark, he is a God-fearing man. He's a very good person. He means well for all Guyanese. Show me the Indians, Mark, that was persecuted under the coalition. No one. No one. Show me the Indo-Guyanese businesses, because they have the largest of businesses across Guyana that would have struggled under the coalition. Now, with our economy, Mark, we did see some changes there because it wasn't an economy that was propped up by drugs anymore and gold smuggling and all these things. David Granger brought some order. Okay? If you have an economy, Mark, you want to have a real economy. Okay? When an economy like the US economy would have grown, I think, 4.2%, that's how an economy needs to grow. Guyana right now, we're showing all these big percentages because of oil, Mark. But once everything settles and the smoke clears, 5%, 6%, perfect, meets economic standards. Okay? So David Granger, man, is a good man. I'm going to always respect him. Guyanese parents could have let their children out to go to school and expect them back home in the evening or night or afternoon. You know, we had some decency. Georgetown did look like the Garden City. You know, he've done so much, you know, without an oil economy, Mark. We have to keep this in mind. There is a lot of initiatives that the PPP is completing now that would have started under the coalition. I was reminded this by a teacher when I asked him if his school had a lab, Mark. He told me yes, and we have tablets too, thanks to the coalition. I almost fell out my seat because of the way that the PPPC would have talked, that they're doing all these initiatives. Mark, I would have asked that same teacher, and this teacher have over 20 years of experience. I would have asked that same teacher what the PPPC would have done to the educational sector. What was his answer, Mark? Absolutely nothing. People of Guyana, wake up, okay? We have a lot of people in Guyana walking around illiterate. That should not be, okay? And Mark, these scholarships that these oil companies or shore-based plan to give out that stop at 25, they need to cut that nonsense out. That's bias, okay? We have Guyanese that are over 25 that their dream has been just about broken by this government, and they would sure love the opportunity to attend university or a technical institute, okay? So don't let's disregard them. You know, these people are out of place, and then the government is going to allow this to be published. That just shows you, Mark, the mentality of these people. So once you meet 25, you are old and you're useless. You know, your dreams cannot come true anymore once you're over 25. Is that what these people are trying to say? That is totally untrue. Okay? Wisdom comes along with maturity. So that is nonsense. Over to you, Mark.
Over to you, Mark. I was waiting for that. Over to you, Mark. Well said, Mr. Caesar. Well said indeed. 23 minutes after 10 o'clock. I know it's Friday night. You guys have us up late. We guys have you guys up late as well. We've got to think, and I agree with the Rastaman who spoke earlier. How do we get rid of the PPPC regime in the next elections, whenever those elections are held, whether it's next year or in 2025? And that's exactly what we have to do. There will be some tussling, there will be some fighting, but at the end of the day, we've got to basically come back to the table as a unified group. That's the only way these vagabonds can and will be removed from office. They have to be removed from office, of course, through the ballots, mind you, so that Guyana will be able to breathe again. Guyana will be able to breathe again. Guyana is not breathing right now. Look at what's happening with the people at Hillfoot. Look at what's happening to the people in Linden. You're not hearing about any progress. What's happening to people in Ituni and Kokwani, Borbies? What about the rice farmers and all these people with no proper drainage and irrigation in Blackbush Polder and other places? Nothing is really happening. The rice farmers are struggling. The sugar workers have nothing. The promises made by the PPP regime about the sugar industry. The guy that they have there as the acting CEO said that he is a turnaround expert. He hasn't been able to turn the sugar industry around, but while he's there as the acting CEO, says Narayan Singh, I don't know what he has been turning around. We can assume, but it's certainly not the sugar industry. Certainly not. And shame on the PPP regime. No jobs, no nothing. All they do, they run around as they did during the course of the local government elections and attempt to brainwash individuals. They ran into Linden, pretend that they love the people. They run in Lane Avenue, they pretend that they like the people. They run to New Amsterdam, and everybody, they drop them like hotcake. Today, I think they were out in Bat Settlement or somewhere. Mind you, the PPP's office, the Freedom House in Bat Settlement, was a government building that the PPP took the transport and put it in their name, the PPP's name. I just say that because all of these pieces of information coming around to show that the PPP is basically a criminal enterprise under Jack Dale, under Air Finale, and these vagabonds. They're not patriotic Guyanese. They're a pack of criminals. That's who they are, and that's what they're about. As we prepare to close, Mr. Caesar, your closing remarks, please, sir.
Yeah, Mark, I would have seen one of our viewers, Mr. Carl Miller, would have just made a comment that we would need help to remove the PPPC from power. Maybe, maybe not. What I think we would firstly need is a clean voters list. You have a clean voters list and free and fair election, and the Guyanese people.
Let me say this, and you know I love to interject. Mr. Caesar, we can get a clean voters list by just sitting on these shows or sitting on Facebook or writing some long dotish letters. People don't read those long articles with 100 paragraphs. People don't read those things any longer. For those who put out those long-winded, people don't have time with those sort of articles and letters and so forth. People want to hear constantly, and we want our 3 commissioners there at GCOM. I know there are times you have spoken about it. These 3 commissioners, Charles Corbin and Trotman over there, and also Mr. Vincent Alexander. People don't want to hear Vincent Alexander writing in the newspaper all the time. And this is with all due respect to Vincent Alexander. But they're a team there. They got to be more aggressive at GCOM to push for the kind of changes that we want. And when you call for this sort of position to be taken, 10 persons, 20 people, 50 people in front of Guyanese Elections Commission wouldn't do the trick. 50,000 people would do the trick for a clean voters list and for them to get their act there at GCOM. But what we're seeing now and just say, oh, we need a new list. My friend, it's not going to do the trick. It's not. Again, sorry, but go ahead, sir.
No, Mark, I just want to make this one point before my closing remark also. This is something that was spoken about today. What I was made to understand that during the 2020 elections, the scrutineers, the representatives that were at the polling station for the PPPC, their representatives got their breakfast and everything delivered by 8 o'clock. And what I would have understood is that on the APNU side, our representatives got their breakfast delivered at 11 and their lunch at 2 on these type of things, Mark. This type of stuff has to stop. We've got to get on the ball. We've got to get organized. And I'm going to close off by a remark.
But before you close off, let me say this to you, Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Me and let me belly controlling me. Sacrifices have to be made.
I agree.
Sacrifices have to be made. There are days when some of us were protesting. We didn't get water to drink, we didn't get no food, but we're protesting. Sacrifices have to be made.
But Mark,
if we got to go without breakfast for a day, for hour or 2 hours just to get this right, you know what I mean? I'm not saying you got to eat here, but sacrifices have to be made. I don't control me. If I know I got to do something, I'm out there, man. No PPP people going to send me to go buy $200 black pudding and these. No. Sorry again, but go ahead.
No, Mark, I agree with you. Hence the reason we need to vet our people properly, because not everyone have the strength, and the patience, Mark. Oh, I'm hungry, or oh, I need to use the bathroom. Get up at a critical time and gone. We need to have enough people there, Mark. And listen, I have heard stories, Mark, of where the APNU would have lapsed quite a bit when it came to the polling stations. We need to improve that. This is my closing remark. I'm using this as my closing remark.
But not only the other thing before you get to your closing remark, the protests have changed from what Hazel, Austin, and all the other guys out there who know about the protest and when we were there on the battlefield Facebook is not a battlefield. You know, people could shout how much they want to shout on Facebook as quote unquote activists or whatever. The battlefield was on the ground. We weren't concerned. We weren't concerned about food and water and transportation. All of us got there. All of us got there. Whether you get food, whether you get no, but nowadays people want they gotta get food, they gotta get water, they got I don't know, walk with a bottle of water from home. Sacrifices have to be made in a struggle. And some guys complaining that they're hungry on the picket line for hour, 2 hour. You know, walk with something, fry some egg at home before you go there. And if you can't take an hour or 2 hours of protests, you're going to take an entire country being sanctioned. And some of them in the comments say, yeah, we're ready for sanction. We could have been, you know, I'm saying this, we are having a conversation. It's not to disrespect our viewers or anyone in the audience there. It's not. He's lost in is saying, yeah, she knows this, those sort of struggle. We weren't concerned about water. Nobody wasn't, you know, you're telling me on water and food. We eat enough and we go out there and we protest whether it's for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. Those were the good old days. Bring those days back, please. Mr. Caesar, over to you, sir.
Yes. Mark, my closing remark would be for the coalition, the opposition. I feel like if the opposition has a lot of work to do, we have elections in 2 years, approximately. We need to get on the ground. We need to educate and rally our people, your supporters. We need to also reach beyond the boundaries and introduce new people to the party, because there's a lot of PPP supporters who are not pleased with what's happening across Guyana. We need to reach out to those people and let them know, you know, we welcome them on board, you know, because when it's all said and done, you know, we're all one people across Guyana, and we all feel, you know, for each other, and we have to become each other's keeper, you know, with this regime that we're dealing with right now. The coalition, the APNU have to be prepared to govern come 2025. You don't wait until 2025 is upon you, and it may happen before that. You got to have a vision in place for the country. You have to strategically plan so that you can hit the floor running. Listen, the Guyanese people don't have too much more time to waste. They've been oppressed and marginalized for so long. They're tired. Okay, if they're going to go out there and they're going to vote you into power, you know, they're going to be looking for an early return on their investment. In order to execute that, the leader of the opposition needs to be on point. He needs to be fully supported 100%. And I say this to all the MPs. You have an issue, you know, you get into those private meetings, bring it to the table. Don't air your laundry out in public. Let's be professional. We're all professionals here. And we have to remember that we're representing the people here. Okay? And people put you in place because they're looking for proper representation. So let's get going, you know, and, you know, get this thing done. It can be done. You have the momentum right now. You cannot hold back right now. We have to stay on the front foot. We have to continue to be frontal. I see the PPP is trying to change the narrative with this whole David Patterson situation. But we're just not going to allow that. And last thing, for the DPP, you need to go back and check that file for Darmlal that you would have sent back. You know, just like you would have sent back David Patterson on file recommending charges. Why did you not recommend charges against Nigel Darmlal? And why Nigel Darmlal have not yet countered that victim saying with charges of defamation of character? Why has he not? There are reasons behind that. Mark, I stand by my word. I stand by my statement. The DPP is very biased and racist in nature. She needs to check herself and she needs to be removed. I don't know what mechanism can be put in place to remove this woman. She is not fair. She is not independent in fact and appearance, and she needs to be. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wayne Caesar, and thank you all our listeners. I got your RAS, Ricardo. When I speak of the battlefield that will move, that will shiver the PPP, is the battlefield is on the ground. It's kind of like a war. You know, you have the pamphlets coming from above with the airplane dropping those pamphlets and so forth, but the real battle is on the ground. Read up about the Vietnam war and going into the jungles and fighting and so forth and so on. The real battle is on the ground. And the battle that I'm talking about is the protest, mass protest. This at no point in time am I going to discredit social media in terms of spreading certain information out there and countering the PPP's trashy propaganda, these sort of things. Don't get me wrong, but understand what I talk about, the battlefield on the ground, 50,000 persons in front of GCOM calling for a better voters list and all these different things. It makes a difference. That's the point I'm making, Mr. RAS Recorder. And to all of you, thank you all so much for being with us this entire week. We will be back on Monday, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM, the station that belongs to the people and the station that speaks the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. God bless you. And if you're celebrating your birth anniversary today, happy birthday. If you celebrated it yesterday, belated. If you're celebrating it tomorrow, ahead of time, or Sunday, ahead of time. And as always, thank you so much, Mr. Wayne Caesar, for your time. Please convey our regards to your mother and tell her we're waiting to celebrate her birthday next year with her again.
I will do so. I will do so, Mark. And for you, have a great weekend. For all our listeners and viewers, have a blessed weekend. And I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. All right. So long, guys. God bless you all. And don't forget, I forgot to tell Mr. Caesar, go down there this weekend, tomorrow or so, get his haircut Exquisite Hair Palace. That's in where it is on 5321 Church Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets. I may very well head down there tomorrow for a lineup. Yeah, go for a lineup. Good evening to the guys here, Clive and all the other crew. If you're a barber and you need a chair, go down there and check them out. They got a chair if you're a hairdresser. GT Root Girl if you need to do a part-time job fixing hair. Shondell Griffith if you know the plait hair. Go on down, rent a booth part-time. I wish I knew how to plait hair. I would have had my booth right there next to Tony Hack's booth as well. But and next to So True Hector booth, all of us would have gotten our booth doing hair. And as you know, all of us would have been right there with our booth. Oops, I don't know what the operator is doing there, but these guys and their pink, these guys and their bicycles. And on top of that, we have a new ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Guyana. Congratulations to the new ambassador, and best wishes to Sarah Ann Lynch as she moves into pre-retirement. And for now, my name is Mark Benchab. Thank you all for watching. God bless you, and let us continue to pray for Guyana. And have a good weekend. Just be safe, guys. And be careful with the propaganda from all sides, right? Be careful with propaganda. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, my name is Jacinty Caldata, Francis E. Vietnam, and since 1965, I become a voter, and I always place my X next to the cup. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
So this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.